Welcome to another episode of the S.E.M podcast. Jack Bryce here, joined by Zach Hewlett, and today our guest is Mark McCormack. How you doing, Mark?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we're glad
pleasure.
You're here. Thanks, Mark.
Where are you calling from tonight?
So I'm in Bluffdale, Utah.
Hey, very nice.
Very good. All right, Mark. Well, let's get started with how you ended up in Scotland.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually blame my dad and my family a little bit. So my dad was actually born in Scotland. And so I don't know how much of that had to do with it, going there. But so it's cool. When I opened my mission call, my grandfather was there. He was about probably mid-80s, about that age. And so, went to Preston England Mission the MTC, and then up to Scotland. And it was a party, and everyone was going crazy. My family was going crazy. I had a lot of cousins over there and aunts and uncles, and so I was able to see them when I was there. And yeah, it was really fun.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And what was the timing of when you got your call? When did you serve?
So I think I put my papers in April of 2000. I left November 15th, 2000, and I would have got my call. I think I would have got it like in May, around May, something like that. So right as I was graduating high school. I think I had it right before I graduated.
Okay.
Wow. Cool.
All right. So 2000 in Scotland, and then to 2002?
Correct. Yep.
Nice.
All right. Well, what have you been up to then for the last, 22 years?
That's a good question. I got married, and so probably the best decision I made. We have our 20-year anniversary in June, so that's dope.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was a valiant missionary. I had a really pretty wife, if that's still a role when you guys are
there. Oh yeah.
You chapped in the rain for a lot of minutes, a lot of days, right?
Oh, I was a chapping maniac, dude. It was we did a lot of that. So, yeah.
Nice.
I've got 3 kids. I love the daughter, 12-year-old son, and an 8-year-old daughter. And I've been pretty active in the business community, and so I actually have my own podcast. So I'm about 180 episodes in, and
Nice.
and half of life and get the most out of it.
Very good.
That's great.
Very good.
Awesome. You have your own podcast. If people want to find your podcast, what should they search for?
Yeah, so it's called the President McCormack Podcast. The only reason it's called the President McCormack Podcast is 10 years ago when I got Instagram or whenever, I just called myself President McCormack on there, just to kind of be funny more than anything, and I've never changed it. So branding wise, it made a lot of sense.
Nice.
All right. Very good. Well, all right. Take us back now. We'll go November 2000. You can start at the MTC. We'll just walk through like companions, areas. It's whatever you want to talk about, stories you want to tell.
Sounds good.
We'll get rolling.
Well, interrupt me a bunch with questions. It'll spur some memories. It's I hate to admit it, but it's been a minute since I served.
No problem.
So I went pre 9/11. So for some of the listeners that are kind of interesting, right? So my family was actually able to walk me all the way up to the gate, right? So when I left, it was high school buddies, a couple of chicks thought were cool, full family and everything. So I left at about, I remember, like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and so we all drove up there, and everyone walked me to the gate. I hugged everybody, and I actually forgot to hug my mom. Funny enough. So,
oh no.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, dude, I bet there was 40 people there, something like that. So I was just kind of like giving everyone a hug, and I got on the plane, and I found out in a letter like 2 or 3 weeks later, right, that she wasn't mad or anything. She understood, but she was like, "Hey, you forgot to hug your mom when you got on the plane." But I give it a little bit of nerves too, right? I mean, it's like it was the first time I'd actually been to London as a little kid. My dad's 2 brothers live in Manchester, and so it wasn't my first time over there, but it was definitely the first time I can remember, going over there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was wild. We left at 9 a.m. I went to Chicago, flew from Chicago, met up with a whole bunch of missionaries in Chicago, kind of a little hub, and then ended up hitting the MTC in Preston. And yeah, just all the English missionaries and Europeans sort of pouring in throughout the day. And we got there probably, I think we landed about 8 o'clock in the morning, which is interesting, right? You have this whole day of travel and you end up being there in the morning. And then by 7 or 8 o'clock that night, actually my companion, Elder Nichols, Sean Nichols, he was older, so he was 26 when he came on his mission, and I think he had gone through the temple either that day or the day before, so he didn't actually show up until 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and so I didn't have a companion until later on that evening. Not that it mattered, but kind of a interesting quirk.
Nice.
So, and then I was shell shocked by sitting in the classroom all day, every day, with very little breaks, and trying to figure out what the flip I got myself into.
It's a bit of a crucible there.
Yeah,
it's true.
So you have to tell me, when did you guys serve, so I can kind of put a timeline to this.
Yeah, so I served from February 2004 to February 2006, and Zach was there about a year delayed on me, so he was there from January 2005 to January 2007.
Oh, very cool.
Jack was my trainer, so that's how we connected to do this podcast together, which has been fun.
Nice. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's really good. So that's kind of my story getting over there. I can't remember the MTC guy's name. He was an American, kind of short, little white-haired guy, Yeah, but I kind of remember the MTC. It was cool, right? I mean, the temple was up the hill, and me and Elder, let's see, Shumway, and there was one other elder. I think he went to like the Birmingham Mission or something. But we would get up at 5 o'clock every morning and run up and down to the temple, 10 or 12 times, kind of as exercise, and do push-ups and stuff like that. Because I'm a tall guy. I was 6'7" back then, about 260 pounds, and football was kind of my calling in life. So I was trying to stay in shape for at least the first part of the mission. So that was dope. I just remember kind of, it was drizzly, right? I mean, most people listen to this podcast, I'm sure, went on a mission there, so they get it. But yeah, it was just beautiful, right? I mean, it was just, you definitely felt like you were in a foreign country when we were there.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, especially that time of year, right? It's dark.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was. Our runs in the morning were foggy, and which is actually really cool, right? It's kind of Sherlock Holmesy, and you got those yellow street lights coming down that kind of make it a little cool. And but yeah, it was beautiful. I don't think what else I was thinking back then. I mean, the thing about it was weird, right? Like, you got up in the morning, then you went and eat, then you went to class, and you ate, then you went to class, and you ate, then you went to class, and what I mean? It was just kind of like this monotonous thing. I do remember thinking, like, I am so glad I'm not like a 2-year or a 2-month long foreign speaking missionary, because I don't know if I could. I mean, I would have made it happen, right? Because I feel like you're gonna die in there. But it was nice to leave after 21 days.
Yes, I agree. I completely agree with that. My goodness.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing about the MTC that was kind of hard on me, is I made friends with missionaries that were going to other missions. The Birmingham Mission, the London Mission. I think there was a couple missionaries ended up going to Germany. And so it was kind of weird, right? That last day, and funny thing with us is it snowed the day that we were supposed to go to Scotland. So instead of us taking a train up there, we actually flew, which that flight, by the way, is like 25 minutes long. Like, I mean, I think we went up and crested and went down. It was like, what are we doing? This is insane. So I actually flew into Glasgow or into Edinburgh. So out of the Manchester airport.
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
Yeah, we've heard. I don't think we've heard anybody fly up yet. We've heard people take bus, people take train, but
there's about 7 of us.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I heard that from somebody, but I can't recall exactly who said it. But you're one of the few that have had that experience.
Right. And then what did you guys do? Did you train up there, or how'd that go?
Train, yeah.
Train, yeah. How long is a train ride?
Oh my gosh,
2 or 3 hours. I think.
I was going to say at least 2.5, 3 hours. Yeah.
Was it a sleeper car one, or was it just like a normal train?
Just normal?
No, it was like riding tracks in Salt Lake on a 2.5 hour ride up through the countryside. It was a beautiful, beautiful ride, but not something that you typically have. Like, I grew up in Sandy, so going up and down the valley is a completely different story.
Yeah.
The cool part about it, though, is when you get off the train in Edinburgh, like you're in Edinburgh and you see Castle, you see, it's like, wow, welcome to Scotland.
Was it the normal train stop for the mission home? Is that the same stop you got off on?
Yeah, Waverley, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It was either Waverley or Haymarket, one of the two that was in Edinburgh that we'd all get off on, and usually the mission president or the APs were there to throw us in the van with all of our luggage and spin us through Edinburgh for a minute on the way back to the mission home.
Yeah. And then did you sleep there the first night? Is that the same for everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did that too. I remember, I think we slept at a bed and breakfast that was kind of close. And then we ended up meeting our trainers the next day. And I can't really remember that whole day. I just remember taking the picture by the crest and then kind of being off on a bus off to where we were going. And it was kind of like, see ya. So,
did you guys Pratt's Hill?
Yeah.
Thanks, Jack. Sorry, I cut you off.
Did you go to Pratt's Hill?
Yeah. Did you hike?
Oh,
Pratt's
you know
Hill?
what? I think we did. Yeah, I think we did do that. Yeah.
Okay.
See, I'm glad you said something.
And was it President Wilkinson for your whole mission, or did you start with President Clyde?
No, President Wilkinson was my whole mission. So I think he would have been. That was his first year, I think, right? 2000.
Yeah, I believe so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the older missionaries in my mission, they all had President Clyde. So
it's cool. All right. Well, who was your trainer and what was your first area?
So my trainer was Chad Warnick, who was a 2023 Teacher of the Year here in Utah. So national competitor.
Nice.
I just had him on my podcast. The episode released a couple months ago, so it was kind of fun. And then Kirkcaldy was my first area. So I was a little lucky. Elder Daniel Little, who actually, funny enough, was at my house last Sunday. I hadn't seen him for about 18 years. But he was my best friend in the mission in the MTC. And then he actually went to the same house as me. When I first went on the mission, most of the missionaries had 4 or 6 missionaries in one flat. And then throughout my mission, they thinned that out to where it was only 2. Was that the same for you guys? Was it only 2 in every place you were at?
Yeah, almost all places.
Yeah. Very, very rarely did you have 4 missionaries in a flat at a time because of all the antics that tended to happen with 4 of you in the same flat.
The rumors are true. The rumors are 100% true. No, there was like 6 or 8 missionaries in some of these places, and it's like,
my God.
I mean, the S.E.M missionaries, right? They're a little rough, at least back in the day, right? There was, I don't know if rough is the right word, but we could handle ourselves. I'll put it that way.
We know, Mark. We heard the rumors.
Yeah. So one of the things, so there was an elder the very first day that President Wilkinson was in the mission, right? He's having dinner with President Clyde. Clyde gets this call and he just hands it to President Wilkinson. This is the story that's been told. And the missionaries were in a high-rise flat. I can't remember exactly what they call them, but they were wrestling and ripped a sink off the wall, and it started flooding like every single floor down the lane. And that was President Wilkinson's first day, from my understanding.
Oh my goodness, that's terrible.
Also the reason we got thinned out pretty quick.
Oh, man.
How frequently did we wrestle in those flats when we should have been doing it like in the floor at the church or something? There was no reason for us to be doing it in the flat ever.
Exactly. But, you mix a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds, now 18-year-olds, it's probably even worse.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Very funny.
Yeah. So, Kirkcaldy, what do you remember about there? I served in that ward. I was in the Glen Rothis area for 9 months.
Nice.
So,
yeah. I'll tell you a funny story because to keep this thing entertaining. Before my mission, about the time I turned my papers in, right, I decided to stop swearing, which was hard. And I wasn't going to watch any rated R movies and anything else, right? Kind of kept myself nice and pure on the way in. And it was right when the movie Gladiator had came out. And so everybody and their dog, every friend of mine, all the adults that were around me, right, were like, yo, dude, you could watch Gladiator. It's not that bad. And I was like really staunch on, no, I'm not watching rated R movies. And so, so I hit the mission. So I would have been in the mission probably around, the 10th or 11th or whatever, right, of December. So about a week later, they started, doing the Christmas runs, right, where like they'd invite us over to like hang out because it was Christmas time and all that kind of stuff. And I remember the first council, the bishop, like had us over for the full day, right? He's like, "Oh, come hang out with my family," whole thing. So there's four of us that went over there, and about 7 o'clock at night after we had like dinner, he was basically like, "Okay, I'm going to show you guys one of the best movies I've ever seen," and he freaking put in Gladiator. I remember being like, "You gotta be freaking kidding me, man!" And I go, "Well, isn't this thing rated R?" And he goes, "Not in this country,
17,
boy."
right?
Yeah,
Not
no,
this
it's 12. Yeah, it was 12.
It was
So
12.
it was a 12 because there's no, I don't think there's any nudity in it, right? So it was just kind of
Oh,
violent.
interesting.
And that's when I actually learned the rating system over there. Between what is it? Is it PG? Or it's GPG 12, 15, and then 17 or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And yeah, I remember thinking, I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to adjust my attitude towards certain rated R movies because over here they're not rated R. It's not even a thing."
That's true. That's a very American part of the LDS church for sure.
Right. So yeah, so I remember that one of the things I remember, right, it was my first Christmas, right? So that was kind of new. And I remember watching Gladiator and I was like, everyone was right. This is an amazing movie. And just, I mean, it was really dark. It was Christmas time. So I remember it like getting dark, around 3:30, if I remember right. And it was really foggy. If I'm being 100% vulnerable, I was the first person in my family to go on a mission, like extended family, everything. My grandparents and my dad were converts. And so I honestly thought it was a 9 to 5 job. I thought Saturdays and Sundays were off. And so I was a little shell shocked, right? I was like, what the flip is this? And then when P days were half a day, it was like, that was a little disappointing. And so it was a major adjustment for me, like a major adjustment, but not like I was having a hard time with it. It was just like every expectation I had about being on a mission was not true, not accurate. If you remember, I think the movie was called Called to Serve or something like that, right? Where they're kind of panning over all the missionaries and just kind of waving and everyone's happy. It's like a Hallmark commercial, basically, right?
Yeah.
I remember thinking, I'm like, oh, people don't like me because I'm Mormon, and people don't like me because I'm American, and people don't like me because I'm big. And it was like the trifecta of everything, right? So knocking on doors was fun. It was a challenge and it was interesting. But yeah, I mean, my first companion was really hard on me, and he'd admit that, right? I actually memorized really easily. So getting I think it was certified, right? We got certified with the things. And did you guys actually memorize the discussions, or were they past that?
So I was at the very tail end of, we weren't memorizing like required, but once you got to the mission, they still had the old memorization program. So passing off the sticks and the discussions, the first 4 you had to memorize at that time. It wasn't all 6, and then you were planning lessons based on that, but not giving them rote. So
gotcha. Yeah. So Preach My Gospel, I want to say it was released like the last 2 months of my mission. And so I had the little spiral binder of it, but honestly, we didn't even read it because it was like, we're not doing this, right? Like we had 2 months left.
Yeah.
And so we did like, did you guys have like Mind of the Master and Scriptorian? And was that a thing for you guys?
It was all handed to me. I never did it. I think I got the first level of it or whatever, like the first stick.
Yeah.
But that was it.
I was all Preach My Gospel from the moment I got to the MTC. So
cool. Yeah. So for us, memorization was kind of a big thing, right? And so my trainer was proud of me, funny enough, but like, I was like knocking the discussions out and passing those all off, and I got Scriptorian, and then I rebelled really hard against him. So it was about right around the first move, right about 6 weeks in, where I was like, because I couldn't even eat breakfast without him being like, "Yo, dude, are you memorizing or you're not memorizing?" And it was like,
oh wow.
At first it was like, okay, I'll memorize, I'll keep going, but after 6 or 7 weeks of that, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. so, but it was good. I mean, honestly, everything in the mission is good, right? Like it was a good learning experience. Like him and I are good friends, right? Like we're very friendly with each other, and we were on the mission as well. But it was definitely an adjustment, coming on the mission and having the pressure to perform a little bit, but also having the adjustments of being in a foreign country, and the excitement had kind of worn off by then, and yeah, it was kind of a reality check.
Yeah. it doesn't take real long to get cold,
right?
in Scotland, right? Especially that time of year. So that's when Zach and I both came in, is during the winter months. So we can relate for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. So were you only there 6 weeks?
So I was there for 3 months. And then my next area was Dundee. Let me say this right. Yes, Dundee. And I was there for 3 months as well. And then I went from Dundee to, where did I go next?
Who'd you serve with in Dundee?
Oh, I was there with Mark Taylor, Soldier Taylor from England.
Yeah.
And then and that area, honestly, that area was a little bit of a quick thing. So when I was in Kirkcaldy, this will be a very unique story for me. I actually broke my back. So we were playing basketball, and I was arguing with one of the missionaries on what's the more athletic sport, soccer or basketball. Obviously, I proved it right. It's American basketball. And I tried to Vince Carter someone and jump over top. When I did that, my hips were kind of in their face, and they pushed my hips, and I ruptured a disc in my back. And so,
oh my goodness!
But I didn't have surgery until about 9 months in. So I had Kirkcaldy, then I went to Dundee, and then I went to Kilmarnock. And then when I was in Kilmarnock, I was with Elder Alexander Noot, N-O-O-T for those people out there. And from there, I got an MRI, a private MRI. The church paid for me finally. And one of the problems with my back, to kind of explain it, is when you hurt your back, you actually have sciatica. So when I fell to the ground, I actually thought I had ripped a hamstring because I had instant sciatica. And I went to the National Health System. They gave me like this printout on pain and said, "Yeah, deal with it," kind of thing. And so I dealt with it for months and months and months. And then finally, the church was like, I was like telling President Wilkinson, I'm like, dude, this is like, it's all down my leg, my whole back hurt, like everything's bad now. So I had an MRI. It got shipped home. I grew up in a little bit of an affluent neighborhood, and so my back doctor is actually my neighbor. And he called the mission home as soon as he saw the MRI and said, "Hey, I got to do surgery on him like now." And so I was basically home within about 36 hours. From that phone call, within 48 hours, I actually had surgery. I was done, and I was actually home recovering. So it was a whirlwind. So my first 9 months of my mission were like boom, kind of like crazy. I was home. I was never released. I was a missionary for 6 weeks at home, and then I went down to Delta, Utah for 6 weeks, and then they deemed me able to return to the mission, and then my parents paid for me to fly back, so I didn't have to stay stateside, and then I ended up going back almost dead on my year mark.
Wow,
that's wild, man.
That's amazing. What a story. Oh my gosh. That's insane.
Holy cow. Yeah. Well, as long as we're recording it, who is your companion in Delta?
So it was Elder Cave. And he was from England. I have not seen him since then.
Wow.
Me leaving Delta was a little interesting. I'll get to that in a second. Then I also had another companion. I should get points for this because I can remember all this. He was from Mongolia, and his last name was Bat-Orgil. So he was Elder Bat-Orgil. And the dude barely spoke English. He was probably in the mission for maybe a move or two. And we were in a threesome, right? So it was kind of an interesting thing that so it was the Provo South mission, I think it was called, or maybe it was just the Provo mission.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, something like that, right? And it's an interesting mission because they baptize a ton. They're the number one English speaking baptizing mission, at least back then they were. But they've got all the colleges, right? So you got Dixie in there, you got Snow and BYU and UVU and all that stuff, right? Yeah. And so they weren't going to send me to any of the college areas because all my friends were in college, right? So I was in Delta, which actually was my trainer's home. So he was from Delta. So I met his family and I got home. I was actually serving about a move or two before he came home. So it was kind of fun, right? I took pictures with his plaque and sent them to him and his family. And actually baptized 3 people while I was there. 2 kids that were awesome. Like 10 or 11 and then an investigator.
That's amazing.
I'll tell you a really funny story about this. So we're teaching this kid, right? He was 10 years old, and his dad was kind of like this wild guy, right? Like, I don't know if he had been excommunicated or never a member, who knows, right? But he was kind of wild. So when the kid got baptized, there was something written across his chest. And as he comes out of the water, you could see it through, because the white shirt got wet. And he comes over to us, and we kind of loved on the kid, and he's like, "Hey, Elder, check this out." He pulls his shirt down, and he had wrote across his chest, "Ozzy rocks," like Ozzy Osbourne. And I was just like, "Oh, this is funny, right?" And so then we went into the chapel, because they got baptized with like 4 or 5 kids that day, right? We go in the chapel to do the Holy Ghost, and they do a spotlight, and his like primary teacher got up and like read this thing, and I was like, I didn't know anything about this kid. He's like plays the violin, like all this stuff, right?
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And as he's talking, the dad turns to us because we're sitting right behind him, and he goes, "Hey, I made all this stuff up." I was like, "Are you freaking serious?" So we just laughed because it's like, whatever, right? And so it was like that kind of a kid, right? And the kid's just like, "Oh yeah, I'm baptized, and this is dope." And I'm like, "Yeah, buddy, good luck." And literally like 2 weeks later, I was in Scotland. Like it was just kind of like during the whole thing. But the Provo mission's interesting in the fact that if you get kicked out of your mission, you end up there, right? It's kind of like the halfway house for we're gonna give you one more shot kind of thing. And so so Bat or Gill ends up leaving, and there was another missionary that came in. He got kicked out of one of the missions. It was a stateside one. I can't remember. And I actually like him. He's a cool dude, but he was, I don't know what you call it, rambunctious, I guess, or wild or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I had gotten to an argument with with the other companion that was actually in the mission, like about a week before I was supposed to leave to go to Scotland. And it's a stupid argument, right? But it got contentious. And the next morning, I got a phone call from the APs, and they're like, "Hey, we're coming to get you." And I was like, "Why are you coming to get me?" And I thought it was because of this argument that I'd had with my companion. And I was like, "This is like way overkill." And they're like, "We've talked to your stake president, and he's approved it. You're going to come up to Provo with us, and you're going to spend the next couple of days with us." And it was like a punishment. And I remember getting off the phone with them, and I was like, "No, this isn't happening." So I called my mom, who's 2 hours away, and I said, "Mom, come get me." And she was like, "Why?" And I'm like, "I don't know, something weird's going on. I'm going back. I don't know what the heck's going on. Come get me." So she's like, "Okay." So she literally shows up like 10 minutes before the APs, who I had never met before, right? Because it's a massive mission. And I'm like loading my stuff in there. And the companion, Elder Cave, right? And he's a good dude, right? But like, he's like, "You can't do this, blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, "This ain't my mission, dude. I don't give a rip. Like, I'm going home, And so I'm literally leaving as the APs are pulling in, right? And I'm just giving them deuces, like, "See ya." And I go home. I call as soon as my mom gets there, I'm like, "Hey, call President Zabriskie, whose son was a friend of mine. My stake president I have known for years and years, right? Like almost my whole life. And he was on vacation, right? He was gone. And I was like, this is the weirdest thing. Like, I don't understand what's going on." And so anyway, so I end up going home. I already have my plane tickets going back. Like it's set in stone, right? And so I end up hanging out with my parents for like 4 days or something like that. And then I fly to my mission. While I was in my mission later on, I got a phone call, and it was the mission president from the Provo mission. And he's like, "Hey, I want to apologize to you about how things happened when you left. What we had got miscommunicated, right? And someone had called and complained and used my name, but it wasn't actually me they were complaining about. They were complaining about another missionary who wasn't obeying the rules and doing all this stuff."
Oh my
And so I kind of left out of there with like kind of like, on fire basically, right? And it wasn't me to begin with. So yeah, because I was a missionary. I was very obedient as a missionary, but when it came time to like have P days and play, and like I was all about having a good time, like zone meetings were about having a good time. Conference is super fun in Scotland, right? Because it starts at like 5 o'clock in the morning and goes to like midnight.
That's right.
And when you're not watching it, you're playing Risk or Monopoly or eating or like having a good time, right?
Right. That's right. Yeah. Very true.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a wild story for you. Yeah.
Man, that's insane.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that with us though. That makes it that much more unique. Everybody's experience is unique, but that's a new one for sure.
Yeah. You might hear that a few more times. Yeah.
making it so back to Scotland.
Yep.
That's pretty cool too.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Most people don't get to go back, right? So
it's true.
Yeah, you're very lucky. So my understanding of that rule was, if you wanted to go back, your parents had to pay the plane ticket to go back, or at least that's what we were told. Now, President Wilkinson was very good friends and probably still is. Is Elder Holland still alive?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so he was really good friends with Elder Holland. So Elder Holland actually gave me special permission to go back to my mission. So that's kind of the full loop of it. He called and said, "Hey, I want this missionary to come back," and the church basically said, "We'll allow it, but he's going to pay for his own plane ticket," which was like $350, right? It was like nothing. So my parents were like, "Absolutely, paid it." I ended up going back. They timed it right, so I went back during a move. So I redid the whole thing with the new missionaries, right? Like I had dinner with them, and so then the next morning I just got assigned to an area. So I bounced to my area, and they all got their companions and did their thing, right? And so I ended up going to where was my first area back?
Kirkcaldy?
No, first area back would have been I think I went to Motherwell. Let me think about
that's a welcome back.
Yeah. So no, it was Motherwell. So I ended up going to Motherwell, and I was in Motherwell for, I think it was 3 months. It was either 3 months or 4.5. And then my companion there was Elder Carter. I'd gone in there, it was Elder Carter, and then they gave me Borton. Let me think about this. I'm gonna mess this up, but
you're good.
You know what? No, I had Carter 6 weeks, Borton 6 weeks, then I had my greenie. I love the kid, and I can picture his face, but I can't remember his name. I haven't seen him since the mission, I don't think. Anyway, so I had my greenie, and then I left to go up to Sterling. So I was there for 4.5 months, and I went up to Sterling with Ender Vanderhoven for 6 weeks, and then I went to Dumbarton where I was zone leader, and I was zone leader there for 6 months, and I was with Elder Duncan for 6 weeks before he went home, and then I was with Elder Johnson for 4.5 months, and then I went home.
Wow. Fantastic.
Sorry, I went over a lot. I went over a whole year of companions in one go.
That's okay.
Well, back to Motherwell.
Yeah.
I know you had to have met some Neds there.
Absolutely, every day. That area was kind of fun. So we had Elder Loganberg. I don't know if you guys, I doubt you've had him on here. He's a British guy, but we've
had his brother. His brother served with us.
His younger brother was in my MTC group, so we've heard Bryn's name quite a few times.
Get him on here. He's wild.
We will.
He's a blast. So I think he was a office missionary for either 4.5 months or 6. I can't really remember. I think it was an arrangement they had. So he was my zone leader in Motherwell when I first went back there. So he signed us up for probably 5 weeks of singing carols every freaking day for the entire month of December, because that was funner than Golden Questioning, right? And so, I mean, there wasn't a rest home or a mall or a freaking street corner that our entire zone didn't sing at least once a day during Christmas. So
nice.
Cool.
In fact, here, I'll tell you a funny story. The big mall that's in Glasgow that's like 4 or 5 stories, right? The kind of open area, big atrium. So they had arranged for us to go in there and sing. And there was probably 3 zones, 2 for sure, but at least 3, right? And they brought the S.E.M. or sorry, the church CES. They brought the CES missionaries over there, so the ones that were like teaching the church educational system stuff, and it was funny, right? So there's, I don't know, 50 of us, 40, 50 of us, and the place is just packed with people. They put out like bleachers for us, right? Oh, dude, we sing a song, right? So call it I don't know, Jingle Bells or something, right? When we finished that song, not one person clapped. Not one. Right? And I was like, oh, we are not amongst friends in here, people. And so they're like, okay, let's kill them with something else, right? Boom, Jolly Old St. Nicholas or whatever. We're singing Jolly Old St. Nicholas. We get done. And I'm telling you, everything's lined, right? There wasn't it was standing room only in that place. Not a clap. And I was like, this sucks. And we had missionaries going around with buckets trying to collect money for whatever, right? I'm sure, I don't know what the frick we were giving it to. I wasn't even paying attention. So then one of the CES guys gets up and he sings, and this guy's probably 50 or 60, right? He sings, I Caught Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, right? Place goes ballistic, right? It was like, they loved it. They're like, oh, he was a good singer, right? So they're like, oh, this is amazing, this is amazing. Oh, cool, he warmed us up, right? Blah, blah, blah. So we go in to singing whatever the freak the next song was. And again, you could hear a pin drop. They were not clapping for us. And I remember looking around and like the missionaries were like, let's end this, right? Like they don't want us. Like this is over. And one of the local 70 was like, okay, here we go. We're gonna knock it out with I'm a Child of God. And I was like, no, this is like Christmas only, dude. Let's not do this. So we sing I Am a Child of God. And dude, it did not hit, right? and so then this guy gets up again because he's like, I gotta save the freaking day. And he sings a song making fun of Germans, but it's a Christmas song. And the place is like roaring applause. And so then we get up again and we sing Because I Have Been Given Much just to kill the mood again. And then I don't know what the flip we ended on. And we literally, they didn't clap for us one time. And then we just like got off the stage and got the freak out of there.
No love. But
if you grab anybody from the 2001 Christmas season, dude, that was there, they'll tell you the exact same story. I promise.
I'm amazed you didn't get like Buckfast bottles thrown at you for something crazy. People throwing fruit or anything in your direction. That's insane. Yeah.
They did not love the missionary singing.
That's so funny. Oh man. So from Elder Carter, Elder Borton, tell us more about him and your time with him in Motherwell.
So Borton his was quick with me because he was only there for 6 weeks. So good dude, right? He liked to go knocking doors. Justin Mitchell was my greenie.
Your greenie, nice.
Yeah. So so let's go back to Borton. So Borton and here's the thing I remember about Borton. Hopefully people find this funny. And if he's listening, Borton, give me a call, buddy. I'd like to reconnect. But I remember that, the little tiny mini fridges we have, right? So he shows up the first day. He wants to go get groceries. I'm like, dope, let's go do it, right? They're like kind of down the street. So we get in the bus, 2 stops, we're at the place. He buys like 4 bags worth of stuff. And I'm like, that's a lot of stuff, dude. Like, these tiny little fridges. So we come back and he makes a popcorn bowl size ranch, right? So he gets like mayonnaise and garlic and parsley or whatever. I don't know what the frick you put in ranch. And he makes a bucket of ranch, right? And so what he liked to do is he liked to get those little White Castle burgers, microwave them, then dip them in ranch and eat them. And I remember being mad at him, like not more annoyed than anything, because I'm like, dude, our fridge, number one, has a massive bowl of ranch. We can't even fit anything in this bloody thing. And the whole house smells like ranch because there's no top for this thing. So every time you open the fridge, it's just like wafting the entire room of like real C- ranch. And so I'll like never forget that about him because I was like, this dude loves ranch, right?
That's amazing. And the White Castle burgers were like the frozen burgers, right?
Yeah. So you barely fit 4 in there. So he's buying them like every day, heating them up, dipping them in ranch. I'm like, am I in like ranch hell here? I don't know.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Some of the stuff that we all decided to eat on our own.
Oh yeah.
It boggles my mind that we weren't all just morbidly obese by the time our missions were over.
Some of us were, Zach.
Sorry, no, you weren't, Jack. Get out of here.
No, I started out super skinny, gained 3 stone. So.
Oh, did you? How much is a stone? Is that 12 pounds?
It's 14.
14 pounds. Ooh, 12. 3 of them. Shiz.
Yeah. It's a decent amount.
I gained over 40 pounds out there.
It filled you out, though, Jack. You know that.
Yeah. Sure. We're almost your height, Mark.
I was gonna say, how tall are you guys?
Zach's 6'5", I'm 6'6". So.
Oh, okay. You guys are my height. Yeah. I was gonna say, dude, gaining that much, it's not wild. If you were 5'5", I would have been like, oh, dude, where's your discipline?
Yeah. Jack had some room in his shoes for some extra weight when I met him. He was just a bit of a rail. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Football wasn't my sport. We'll say
That's
that.
right. That's right.
All right. So then you trained in Motherwell.
Yep, trained in Motherwell. Great kid. He was from Montana. His parents were converts. So here's the funny part. You guys will laugh at this. So by that time, I'd established a decent teaching pool, right? Like we probably had, I don't want to overblow this, right? Because it's Scotland. I mean, probably had 7 people in our pool, right? And he was so determined to knock doors. And I was annoyed because I was like, brother, I have built the area up. You should be thanking me. We actually have people to teach. We don't have to go knock doors. It's very unfruitful. And so I tried to kind of like, I would say drip, but let's call it beat it. I try to beat that into his brain. Like you don't want to be knocking doors all the time. You want to get referrals and you want to like, I mean, this is high level of missioning, right? Like we're at that level. And so he was just bound and determined, right? So one day I go, all right, here we go. Grab a map. You go in the room, you pray, whatever streets pop up in your brain we'll go to, right? And I sat down and I looked at the map and I picked the wealthiest freaking streets I could pick, right? Houses were forever apart. And I was like, here we go. I am going to do this until you make me stop. And so he came out and funnily enough, right? I mean, you call it spirit, whatever you want. He picked 2 of the same streets I did. And I was like, bing, here we go. Time to go, right?
Nice.
And I think on the 5th day, he finally relented and was like, okay, we'll do it your way. And I'm not joking. It was like the second 9 o'clock hit, or 9:30, right? I think it was at 9:30 when we left. From 9:30 to 9:30, we were knocking doors. And it was like, hey, we're from the church. They're just like, go bleep yourself, right? Like over and over and over and over. And literally by the 5th day, he was like, okay, I get it. Like, this sucks. I'm like, okay, let's go teach some people now. So but I loved him. I thought he was great. He loved Lord of the Rings. I let him put a Lord of the Rings poster up. Seemed gray, but whatever, right? It wasn't that bad. And we had a great time, man. We bonded, we had great conversations. He's a good dude. Yeah. The reason why I say that is I don't know if you guys heard the rumors. He's a missionary that he was walking past a window. What I've heard, I've never heard this from him. He was walking past a window. He had a towel on. It was dropped. Someone took a picture of him. So there's a naked picture of a missionary from inside his flat. I've never heard the reality of it. I've heard it from President Wilkinson back then, and this happened after I had gone home. And so I feel sorry, Mitchell Jessen. So the problem is he ended up. He got kicked out of the mission. There was a legal thing that happened, and he went stateside. I think he was only in the mission for maybe a year or something like that. So he left. It was really sad, and he's never come to a reunion or shown his face, basically. So
that's too bad.
That's rough.
And me knowing him, right? I want to kind of stand up for him for anyone listening to this. I don't believe the story. I just don't. He was a great person. There's no way he was trying to be naked. You know what I mean? I think someone just got him in a compromised position. They didn't like LDS people and they went after him. So not to bring it downer here. We can go back to funny stories, but Mitchell Justin, big ups to you, brother. Reach out to us. We love you.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear from him. Hopefully he finds this at some point and gives us a shout out because we'd love to hear from him.
Yeah.
Wow.
So from there, from there, I'm sorry, where did you say you went?
So after Motherwell, I went up to Sterling. I'm going to shout out a couple of missionaries though. So the Hamilton guys, were our district, right? So we would go over to the Hamilton place, and it was right next to Winifred Tourette's house, who's this local person that if you've ever met her, she loves the missionaries, very Catholic. One of my favorite people on this planet. And that's also where I met Elder Skylar Summer, who's one of my favorite people, one of my best friends, actually runs one of my businesses now. So he's worked there for almost 17 years, I think. And so one of the best things that ever came out of Hamilton was actually Skylar Summer.
Wow, that's great. I served in Hamilton and spent quite a few nights at Winifred's home. She was so wonderful and always took great care of us.
Oh, wonderful. So did you live in the same apartment that was close to her, or did they move you guys by then?
Yeah, we were on the 3rd floor that was like literally 2 or 3 doors down from her little cottage there. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, so we went back in 2016, I think. So Skylar Summer and William Craig Barnard, my other buddy, we all went back there. We stayed with Winifred for a couple of days, kind of toured Scotland, went over to Amsterdam, Paris, Ireland, and went home. So a little 10-day.
Wow, that's fun.
Back to the mission. Yeah,
that's amazing. Oh, I love her. She's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out whoever you want as we go through here, because we try to hunt them down. Any names that come up here, we're looking for them. So,
and you can help us with that too, Mark.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Love it.
We love member referrals, like you said.
Yeah,
way more effective.
Yeah.
So, take us to Sterling.
Well, Sterling was awesome, right? So that was kind of the first time I was in an area. Well, we had the big monuments, right? So other than going to Edinburgh, for like zone meetings and stuff like that, and the very first day, so we had the William Wallace Monument, Stirling Castle. One of my favorite things that we did there is our charity that we did 2 days a week. We would go up to a little restaurant that was on the castle's property, and we would make soup or whatever, and we would just serve people in there. And so I wouldn't call myself a chef, but I really like to cook and stuff. And actually, it was kind of born from that area. The lady that was in there used to teach me how to make soups. And over in England, for people, or Scotland and the UK, they blend most of their soups. So it's pretty rare to get a soup that's not blended. And then they put the cream in there and then garnish and that kind of stuff. And so I really learned how to make that kind of soup, which I love. Right? I actually prefer a blended soup with cream and all the good stuff in it. And we also made lentil soup, which was a kind of a new thing, and I loved that my whole mission. I used to buy it in the can and cook it, and make toast and put it in there, and I just and it was right on the cobblestone heading up to Stirling Castle, and I don't know, it's just one of those times in my life where I was like, this is one of the most beautiful, cool moments of learning a new skill, plus meeting people, and it was awesome.
Yeah, so we actually just interviewed Connor Muirhead, who served in Stirling too, and that same service was going on when we served there. And
nice.
That sister joined the church.
Oh, did she really? Oh, cool.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, really cool.
Cool.
It was so funny. I couldn't pick her out of a lineup if I saw her. It was just I don't even have a memory of her. But I remember the place for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And that was. I felt like that was one of the better service things. It wasn't a charity shop or something like that. Ended up in. So,
and you served with Jansen Vanderhooft at that point in time. Tell us about your time with him.
I loved him, dude. So we had this little agreement. He taught me math, and I taught him how to be cool. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean. I think he even put it that way. He actually said that to me, right? He said something like, "Hey, I want you he didn't put it be cool, right? It's kind of like, teach me how to be more social or kind of whatever. I loved him. I still love the guy. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. Has he been on the podcast?
He has. He called you out, actually, I think, on social media. I think that's how we ended up connecting.
Oh, is this the connection? Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. No, he's an amazing dude. And the only thing I was mad about is I was only with him for 6 weeks, right? Like, up until that point, I kind of been with everyone for about 3 months. Well, I guess a couple 6 weeks were in there, but I was sad when I left, right? So he was already in the area. I came up there. I was only there for 6 weeks, and then I bounced, and so and then became a zone leader for the last quarter of my mission. But yeah, we had a baseball bat. We had a Bruce Lee poster up that said something kind of inspirational, right? Like, be your best or something, I don't know. And I don't know. We talked a lot. Like, him and I we just got really close, and yeah, I just kind of loved being with him. It's probably the first time I felt like I was really being a mentor to someone. My greenie, I mean, obviously, you're his trainer and stuff, but Jansen had experienced the mission a little bit, and so it was kind of like just slightly above equal. It was mostly my age,
Mm-hmm.
But he taught me all sorts of stuff. He's actually the person that taught me the theory of relativity, and we went over all sorts of physics type stuff, and I loved it. And so, yeah.
Well, now you have the opportunity to listen to his podcast and his memories of you, Mark. I'm sure you'll love that.
Absolutely, I would love to. Yeah. I'm glad he was on. That's really cool.
And then Dumbarton, you had was it Jonathan Duncan at the time?
Yep. Okay. Yep. Other Jonathan Duncan. Has he been on?
He is not.
Oh, he's wild. I'll have to hook you up with him, man. So he's I've talked to him in the last 5 years. He was teaching school in Houston.
Oh, cool. Nice.
So we can make that happen. Yeah, he's out there. That boy's got stories.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
How is serving in Dumbarton?
Dumbarton was great. So obviously it's my last area, so I remember it probably better than the rest of them. We were on the 3rd story flat of a 3rd story building, and right across the street from us there was a what would you call it? Like a little shop. Not like a corner shop, but like basically they sold treats and then they sold breakfast sandwiches. So you could go in there and they would make you like they get like a roll, runny egg, and sausage or bacon or whatever, right? And cheese.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, breakfast sandwich. So I ended up having one of those like every day. And if I remember right, I thought they either cost £1 or £1.50. And so it actually fit into the budget okay. So it was my last area. I literally ate that every single morning, and we played a ton of soccer there. Our flat was right across from a rec center, so that was the one area I got permission from the mission president for us to go in there and actually work out. And but with the stipulation that I had to talk to people, and I actually felt really bad because looking back at it, we should have done that the entire time. There was every single area I went to, I should have went, because we used to teach basketball classes in there, and I would go and weightlift, right? And I'm 6'7". Back then I was probably about the same size I am now, about 260, and so I stick out. And being an American and weightlifting, but it was that situation where people were coming to me and wanted to know who I was and why. I even had a missionary badge on. I was in gym clothes, but wore the missionary clip badge. And I met a lot of people in there, did a lot of really good work. I actually almost went on a radio show while I was there, but it was more it was a confrontational radio show where they wanted to bring religious people on there, and they would kind of argue back and forth, or Bible bash, or whatever you want to call it. And so when I presented that to President Wilkinson, he poo-pooed that one, which probably was wise, I don't really know, but it's hard to tell, right? It's like marketing, right? It's like, I don't know, if you hear me go on there and I'm articulate, even if you agree with me or not, maybe, I don't know, 100 people would have heard it and said, I don't know, maybe I'll let a missionary in and see what they're like live, who knows, right? But it definitely would have been argumentative and confrontational. So
interesting.
But like I said, we played every P day, we played every Saturday, and it was massive games, right? So we were getting, I don't know, probably 40 people. So there's a lot of, what you consider investigators and yeah, what are the kids' names? There's the Cooper family that's up in Dumbarton, right? They have like 7 or 8 kids and a couple step kids in there or something like that. And so they would bring all their friends, and they were like in their late teens. And so it was kind of like the perfect age for all of us to really mix them in with the missionaries. And the ward there was amazing, really supported, a lot of dinner appointments, a lot of referrals. Trying to remember what else was going on. I'll tell you what was going on there that was kind of crazy. The bishop at the time, he lived up in a city that was about an hour north. I can't remember what it is, but his son was in a car wreck and actually killed somebody. And was on trial for manslaughter, if I remember right. So we actually went to trial a few times to kind of support him. And he was like our age. I think he was like 18, maybe 19, ready to go on a mission. I can't.
So he ended up in Falkirk after he got out of prison.
Yeah.
So
Roddy Kirk, is that right?
That sounds right.
Kirk? Yeah, I think the last name's Kirk.
And he was a really remarkable guy. Like you said, pretty close to our age. He was a little older than me.
Yeah.
But I forget how many Book of Mormons he said he gave away in prison. He met his wife there. He got his education while he was in, so he came out as a physical therapist.
How long was he in there for?
Several years.
Was it? Yeah.
So, yeah,
he was racing, right? So
because they said he was racing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was his friend who died, I believe. So.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I was really impressed with how he'd taken this terrible situation and made it into a real stepping stone for his life to turn things around. So
amazing.
Yeah.
That's crazy though that you were there when the incident and stuff was going on.
So I think if I remember right, the incident had happened, but it was during the trial, and he was home. If I knew him, I'm trying to remember. I think during the trial he was actually at home, and then it was interesting, right? Because a UK court, they wear the wigs, and I think there's 3 judges, not just one. Don't quote me on that either, but it was a lot, right? And it's kind of interesting because it's U-shaped around like a talking area. So when you're in this room, it's almost like you're in an arena, and it's just interesting, right? It's really interesting. And of course we were like, oh, I hope this dude, I don't even know if he was sentenced while we were there, because the trial went on for a long time. He might have been sentenced after the fact. But I also kind of remember him being in jail. So he actually might have been sentenced while I was there. I can't really remember. Also, as a missionary, right? Like that's a very complex situation. So you're just kind of like observing more than asking about it, right?
Getting involved. Yeah. Man, that would be challenging.
Yeah.
So that was when you were with Jonathan Duncan, and then you had Elder Johnson. Now I know you had a Jared and a Jordan in your mission. Do you remember what?
Jordan.
Was it Jordan? Okay.
Yeah, he was the shortest missionary. I was the tallest.
Really?
That's when I used to give President Wilkinson a hard time. I'm like, there's no way. Because when they do changes, right? He's praying, it's all inspired. And I'm like, no, there's not. You picked him. You think this is funny. And he's like, no, I'm telling you. And I'm like, no, you think this is funny. I know you think it's funny. One time, and I'll tell you why I said it. So we're giving our zone leader report, right? We're standing next to each other. He pokes his head in between us and goes, doesn't Elder Johnson look like Elder McCormack's little brother? And I remember thinking, I'm like, that's the moment. That's the moment where you're admitting to everybody here that not every single one of these is 100% inspired. I believe most of them are, but not everyone.
Yeah, I can say that that's probably the case. I mean, when we were in the mission, we had an elder fish, an elder fisher, and another elder fisher, and an elder bear, and an elder bird. And our mission president paired a handful of them together just so he could have the birds and the bears and the fishers and the fishes. And it was, that there was a little bit of that happening.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he said a final prayer and felt great. I mean, whatever, right? But like,
that's right.
Yeah. His hand wasn't being pulled around by a string.
That's great.
Very good. So what, share with us a little bit more memories you have of your mission president and his wife.
I remember thinking and feeling more than anything, right? I mean, that President Wilkinson was probably one of the most powerful people I've ever met. He was short, right? Hopefully he finds that funny. But I don't want to say how tall he was, but he was, and his wife was, she was like the exactly what you want mission mom, right? Like the funny thing is, you go to her and you'd be like, I don't really like the taste of my water, right? And so she'd ship you a Brita water filter, right? Like that's her, right? If you were like, oh, it'd be nice to get some Kraft mac and cheese, like 6 weeks later, could give you some, right? And I remember President Wilkinson kind of giving her a hard time, like, hey, just because the ask doesn't mean you got to freaking give these dudes the stuff. But I remember once I got my Brita water filter, man, I was not letting that thing go. And so she was amazing. She was lovely, right? Just wanted to hug you and make you feel safe and happy. And President Wilkinson, I liked him because I was able to build a relationship with him where I really saw his humorous side, but I also saw in him where it was like, when you have a job to do, you do it, and it's the best of your ability, right? Like he was the mission president. He was never going to let us down. He was never not going to be the example. Like, you know what I mean? Like he was like that kind of a man. But at the same time, if you're going to play ping pong with him, he's going to pull his shirt off, whoop your butt, and not shirt off, take his jacket off, whoop your butt, right? And let you know all about it in a very professional, yet I'm one of the boys kind of ways. And I just always appreciated that about him. I also was able to build a little bit of a special relationship because when I hurt my back, I was actually speaking to him frequently, at least once a week for about 7 months. And so, maybe 6, 7 months. And then when I left to go home in the middle of my mission, I took a train from Kilmarnock into Edinburgh, and then I hung out with him until my flight. So for about, I don't know, about a day now, that night, then half of the day or something like that. And when I was driving around with him, like we were talking and we were conversing, and he knew the potential I had to play football. And if you know his son is Tyler Wilkinson. He got hit by a car, and
Right.
they have I think it's Tyler, an American Hero, is the documentary. And so he was able to kind of talk to me about that, and like talk about his son and the situation his son was in. And I think Tyler actually came and spoke to us. I just can't remember if it was after I came back or before. But I loved him. I love President Wilkinson. He was just a great man, to this day.
It's amazing.
Excellent. It's one of our objectives to have him on the podcast for sure.
Yeah.
I have his phone number right in front of me. It's on my future call list. So President Wilkinson, if you're listening, just answer the phone when Zach Hewlett calls.
You just tell him that Mark says he needs to do this, and he'll just do it. Trust me.
You got it. You got it.
All right. Excellent. Well, Mark, anybody else you want to call out?
Man, I go down a list. Yeah, I mean, you should have Elder Little on for sure. You have a great perspective. Elder Barnard, loved him. I mean, there's a lot of missionaries I still talk to. Tim Pearson's, was a really good friend of mine. Elder Dustin Lance down in Phoenix, Arizona. Great family, great kids. Yeah, I mean, that's probably it that I can think off the top of my head. I mean, I kind of feel bad I'm going to leave some people out, but it is what it is.
It's all good. If you feel left out, just contact us and come on and leave Mark out.
Yeah, exactly. Come on here and tell me you're mad at me.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, the easiest way to get in contact is through our website. So 51spylaw.com is the
Cool.
website. People can go on there, fill out a contact sheet, and then we will reach out to them and figure out schedules to get them on here. Or if they want to email us directly, they can send us an email, S.E.M. podcast@51spylaw.com. Pretty simple. Or they could just check their Facebook messages, because there's probably one for me somewhere in there. Who knows how many people are on Facebook anymore? It's almost irrelevant at this point with our generation. So
yeah. So how many episodes have you guys done?
You are 163.
Oh, okay. You guys have been at it. Nice.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing it for?
Let's see. We started like June of 2022, so almost 2 years now. And
you guys are pounding these out. So I drop 2 a week. So
we do 2 a week as well. About that, we started.
Yeah.
We were pretty dang gung ho the first month and a half, because it was just so exciting to reconnect with people.
Yeah.
And
We've had some sprints for sure.
We can thank my wife for reining us in, because she was like, "You sound like you want to spend more time on the podcast than you do with me." And I said, "Okay, all right, let's figure this out." So, you find your balance, and then you move forward with what you make work. So it's been good.
Awesome. So what's the plan with the podcast then? Are you trying to just go as long as it goes, kind of thing, or?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, we've kind of, our window is, we started like the Wilkinson's era, so mid-July or mid-2000 to mid-2010 is kind of the window. And it's gotten a little bit beyond that with some of the older missionaries of your generation, and then a few bleed overs into the transition into the Scotland Ireland mission, because that's when it merged, was July of 2010. But
Gotcha.
We've got a pretty lengthy list, and it keeps growing, of people that we can have on the podcast. And it's amazing who's listening and how it continues to spread.
Anybody who served in Scotland, we won't turn them away. I mean, if they've served in the 60s under Elder Haight, we want them on.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, get President Wilkinson. President Wilkinson was his AP.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then
have you guys tried to get President Wilkinson on and just can't get a hold of him, or?
No, I just barely wrote his phone number down within the last week, and so I'm working on it. Like I said, it's just me picking up the phone and having a cold call with Randy Wilkinson, who I don't know very well. I just know his name and know of his tendencies, so it'll be good to chat with him.
I'm telling you, drop my name, he'll come on.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah, I've got a really good relationship with him.
Okay. I'll write your name next to him and make sure that I say, hey, Mark McCormack said you need to come on the podcast. Can we get you and your wife to do it? And I'm sure he'll say yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
We have had the Vrainses on, who came in after him.
Yeah, very cool.
And then the Fredericks, who were after that. So that was our mission presidents.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
and we have other contacts of other mission presidents as well that have come across our table as well that we'll work on. We've invited a few senior couples to come on, and haven't had too many of them come on just yet. But it's not to say that it's not a possibility. So, but more than anything, the entire essence of what this is to express a love for our brothers and sisters who served in the Scotland Edinburgh Mission. That's really the entire essence of it. We have this insane, unique mission that not many of us in this world can say we were able to serve in. And being able to say that we were part of that group is a big deal. And so we know that everybody in life has their own stuff that they've gone through since being in Scotland. I mean, it's a whole an additional life's worth of time since we've been there. And we just want everyone to know that we love them. And it goes the same to you, Mark. We love you. We're grateful for you setting a good example and paving the way for us to come and do the work that we did in Scotland. It didn't happen without you. So thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know how how much I pay. I definitely tried though. So absolutely, man. Yeah. I mean, and you're right? Like, when we were on our mission, we were told, we planted seeds and people plant seeds, and when you do it right, you're able to harvest eventually. So yeah, I appreciate that. And I hope you guys had some harvest.
Well, definitely in Glasgow we did, because you guys sang your hearts out for for an audience that gave no applause. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's been a pleasure having you on though, Mark. It's not possible without you. Really, the format we have is just what we went through tonight. It's pretty simple, and we have these great conversations, 160 plus now. And so we love it. We love you. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you guys. And congratulations on the podcast. And honestly, thank you for everyone that's going to listen to this, right? I mean, I didn't even know it existed until someone tagged me, right? So I'm like really Jones. I'm flying to Africa next week, right? So I've got like stupid amounts of time in a plane. So I'm gonna get caught up. So I'm excited, man. I think it's really cool because it's coming from someone in the podcast, right? It's a lot. It does take a lot of effort. There's editing, there's getting us on the same phone, making sure the freaking internet works, right? There's all sorts of stuff, and I think it's really cool what you guys are doing. So I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, thank you. And as we're sitting here, we'll have this go live next Monday, so you'll see it go live, and we'll communicate between now and then for some little things that I'll ask of you to make your podcast unique as far as photos. So we'll be in touch.
Awesome. Sounds good, guys.
All right, Mark. We'll give you a hearty cheerio. We love you, brother. Have a good night.
Cheerio. See you guys.
Bye.